72 hours. That's all it took for a quiet church librarian, newly widowed, to sign away her paid-off house, wire her life savings, and read her bank passwords out loud to a 23-year-old she met on Bumble. 3 days later, she was dead. And before you say, open and shut, explain how her phone reacted to a friend's real 11 minutes after a new device logged into her accounts from the other side of town. If this was simple, the timeline wouldn't fight back. We have a quitclaim deed executed late afternoon, witnessed by a mobile notary that he just happened to know. That evening, a mid-six-figure wire leaves her account for underwriting, split into neat chunks, just under enhanced review thresholds. By nightfall, a trusted device appears on her profile after she reads out a two-factor code on speakerphone. She texted one friend, "I won't need this where I'm going." Except Elaine never used that punctuation. Someone did their homework, or they practiced. Here's what no one asked in the moment that mattered. Who pre-filled the deed language with gift instead of sale? Who knew the county clerk accepts after-hours drops that get stamped the next business morning? Who walked her through the bank's daily limit workarounds like they'd rehearsed it? When she was supposed to be across town signing, a grocery receipt says she was buying flowers with her church sister 12 minutes later. 12 minutes, 9 miles, rush hour. Physics doesn't bend for convenience. If you only watch and never lift a finger, skip this next part. Everyone else, prove you're not just grazing on grief. Comment protect, so I know you're the kind of person who refuses to be a spectator to a preventable pattern. And if you won't subscribe, tell us why in the comments. Go on record choosing not to help keep the story visible. The algorithm listens to silence, and so do the people who count on it. At 10:42 that night, the haha bubble pops under a friend's reel, Elaine's account reacting in a way she never did. For minutes earlier, the account trusted a new device, and an internet address lit up from a neighborhood she never drove after dark. Around midnight, a door opens on her porch and a silhouette steps into frame to take a call. 7 minutes later, a license plate reader pings his car nearly 9 miles away. Either she found a shortcut through time, or someone staged her presence while the money moved. The next morning, the wire references verification complete. A second transfer queues for the afternoon, and a cashier's check clears before lunch. A hooded figure withdraws cash at a branch that isn't hers, right after the teller notes, "Client confirmed wire purpose." That same day, the deed recording hits the county portal like it's ordinary paperwork. On paper, nothing screams. Up close, every decision hums like a plan that didn't start yesterday. Elaine Porter Williams didn't talk like a person planning to disappear. She talked like someone promised relief. In 1 week, her language shifted. Alignment, reset, underwriting, move energy. Phrases she never used in 26 years of marriage appeared in her texts overnight. People don't change vocabularies by accident. They adopt the voice of whoever holds the solution they think they need. And the person offering solutions arrived with forms, contacts, and a script built to look like consent. Elaine Porter Williams wore steadiness like a second skin. Thursday night book club at St. Mark, Sunday service on the east side, reminder texts to her daughter before bed. In public, she was the gentle librarian who kept casseroles coming when other people were in crisis. In private, she was the emergency executor of a life she didn't ask to manage, closing Marcus's subscriptions, negotiating medical billing errors, and fielding family loans that had turned into threats dressed up as reminders. She looked calm because there was no other choice. After Marcus passed in late summer of 2024, everyone saw life insurance and a paid-off house. What they didn't see were the liens that popped up from a coding error on his final hospital stay, or the old family IU that a distant brother decided was due now. Elaine learned more about notarized letters and certified mail in 3 months than most folks learn in a decade. She had a floral folder labeled house, another labeled bills, and a growing stack of pink slips reminding her that grief doesn't stop the mail. She wasn't reckless. She was tired. Tired of being the person on hold with banks, tired of passwords that never quite worked, tired of pretending she wasn't scared to make a wrong move that would cost her the home she and Marcus built. Her laptop had a sticky note with 3 logins, and one password tweaked by an exclamation point. She printed statements because paper made things feel real. She thought two-factor was overkill because who would want to get into my little accounts? She needed someone to speak confidence into the chaos, and that want is where danger finds you. When she joined Bumble in late spring, her bio didn't read like a hunt for thrills. Done surviving, ready to build. It was a whisper to the universe for a steady hand. She matched, chatted, and kept things light. No last names, no addresses, first dates in daylight. Then came the profile that spoke fluent efficiency. He admired her strength, called her a rare kind of quiet leader, said he could take the busy work off your plate so you can heal. In a dozen messages, he offered the one thing no one else was selling, relief packaged as partnership. Her friends noticed the language shift first. Elaine texted like Elaine, full sentences, gentle humor, church emojis at the end of prayer updates. Suddenly she's saying alignment, reset, move energy, and underwriting. Words that don't live in hymnals. She canceled a consultation with a widow-friendly advisor the morning she scheduled the notary. She skipped book club for the first time in 3 years and brushed off Patrice's concern with, "We're just streamlining things." Streamlining. Another new word, but it felt good in her mouth because it promised an end to the paper cuts. There's a kind of loneliness that lives under competence. People ask you for help, assume you're okay, and stop checking the minute you nod. Elaine had been everyone's rock for 26 years. In the weeks before the transfers, she started saving motivational messages that weren't her style. She wore Marcus's ring on a chain and told her daughter she was finally sleeping through the night. But her call logs show late-night hangs with hold music from banks and email pings from password resets. You can mistake exhaustion for readiness when someone arrives with a plan. What kept Elaine vulnerable wasn't ignorance. It was the moral weight of wanting to do right by everyone. Keep the house, honor old debts, not be a burden to her daughter, stay generous at church, and stop living in the paperwork. When Jalen spoke to her, he spoke to that part. He didn't sell romance first, he sold competence. He offered to handle the setup, fix the alerts, organize the folders, and shield the house while she focused on healing. And when your need is relief, you don't always see the difference between a helping hand and a hand in your pockets. On Bumble, Jalen Cole looked like momentum in human form. 23, bright smile, captions about building and freedom, a profile that read like a pitch deck. He wasn't selling dinners and sunsets. He was selling certainty. Crypto consultant. I teach people how to protect assets. I hate when banks bully folks who don't know the rules. He moved fast, but not sloppy. Voice notes at dawn, check-ins at lunch, future plans by evening. He called Elaine, a quiet powerhouse, and promised to clear the busy work so you can breathe again. That's not a flirt. That's a strategy. He pivoted off app almost immediately. Bumble's notifications are messy. Let's switch to WhatsApp. Voice notes replace texts because voices feel intimate and transcripts are harder to search. He sprinkled in the right jargon to sound useful without being technical. Multi-sig, escrow, underwriting, beneficiary alignment. When Elaine apologized for being bad with tech, he turned it into an intimacy exercise. Share your screen. Let me set up the password manager. I'll do the boring stuff. You just approve the codes. Access creep framed as care is the cleanest con in the world. It feels like being cherished. The optics were curated. A rented coupe in a selfie becomes my second car. A short-term rental staged with a ring light is the HQ. Certificates on his wall looked like achievements until you realize they're design templates anyone can download. A dissolved LLC becomes, I exited that company. He spoke in plural, we, ours, our plan, long before there was an us. He met skepticism with hurt. I know people think I'm young, but I got my mom out of debt. I can do the same for you. The subtext is important. He positioned doubt as disrespect, so trust felt like love. Then came the foreknowledge tells. He arrived with a mobile notary I always use, quitclaim deed language pre-selected as gift, and a script about temporary transfers for underwriting, that just happens to lower compliance friction. He knew the county clerk's Dropbox hours and how to split a wire to glide under enhanced review. He floated a limited power of attorney as an errand helper, but paired it with password manager access. Individually, each move can be legitimate. In sequence, they form a funnel. Consent that looks clean on paper, while control shifts in practice. Behind the hustle aesthetic, the trail is thinner. The startup he mentions was dissolved last year. 2 LinkedIn endorsements trace back to the same internet block. Small claims court lists unpaid device plans and a dispute where an ex alleged he helped with bills by getting into my accounts. Rideshare logs place him bouncing between banks near hold-release windows. His posts about haters and staying unbothered spike whenever anyone asks for receipts. When asked for a business card, he prefers QR codes to keep it modern, which also keeps it untraceable. Most revealing is the choreography around his time. A late-night grind selfie exactly covers the window where a new device was trusted on Elaine's account. A cheerful wave at a neighbor's doorbell the morning after wires move reads like Innocence Theater, visibility as alibi. And when a voice note arrives from Elaine with an Android notification in the background, Jalen is publicly on iPhone at the same hour. There's a second device in this story, and a second set of hands. His strength was never just persuasion. It was planning the paperwork to look like love. On paper, everything looks tidy, until you read it like a sequence instead of a stack. The deed is a quitclaim, the fastest, quietest way to hand title to someone you trust. Consideration line, $10 in love. That wording sounds quaint, but it's a legal lane change. A mobile notary logs a late afternoon, signing at an address across town, and the journal shows IDs photographed, signatures witnessed, no signs of distress. The county clerk records it the next business morning, which is normal, unless you were counting on that lag to move money first and answer questions later. At the bank, procedure plays like theater. The teller reads the scripted fraud warning, asks if she understands, and types client-confirmed wire purpose into the notes. The first wire goes out in amounts that sit just under the threshold that triggers deeper review. A second transfer queues for the afternoon. Verification complete. The split isn't illegal, it's efficient. If you know limits by heart, you make compliance your accomplice. Meanwhile, a cashier's check clears before lunch. Later, an ATM camera shows a hooded figure withdrawing cash at a branch Elaine never used. Power of attorney sits in the gray, which is where it can do damage. The notary's journal references a limited POA for errands. On its own, that can be perfectly reasonable. Pick up documents, sign for packages, pair it with password manager access and a newly trusted device, and limited becomes expansive in practice. If you can trigger 2-factor codes, you don't need a broad POA to move the room around someone's finances. You just need the optics of consent and the right forms lined up. Then the paperwork runs into time. The notary's log says the signing happened at 4:37 in the afternoon across town. A grocery receipt places Elaine buying flowers with her church sister at 4:49. 12 minutes later, 9 miles away, during rush hour. You can't beat traffic with goodwill. Either the signing location is wrong, the time is wrong, or someone else was physically present for a legal act that transformed her entire life. When pressed, the notary says, "I go by what's on my journal." Process over truth. That's how clean paper hides messy realities. The county portal shows recorded, with a stamp that confers a sense of finality. But the recording is an endpoint for the clerk, not the beginning of accountability. Once logged, title insurers treat the deed as gospel unless a court says otherwise. That's the quiet horror of quitclaims. They rely on trust. The language that sells itself as love, gift, simplify, protect, becomes a trap if the gift was coerced, the simplification was scripted, and the protection was for the wrong party. From the outside, it's just ink. From the inside, it's the moment control changed hands without a raised voice. The night the money moved, her phone started speaking in a dialect that wasn't hers. A trusted device was added to Elaine's account just before midnight. 4 minutes later, a haha reaction pops under a friend's reel. Elaine didn't react with bubbles. She typed full sentences because she liked words more than buttons. That tiny change matters. It's the first breath of a digital ghost, someone wearing her accounts like a mask, just convincing enough for people who want to believe nothing's wrong. Then the map stops cooperating. Internet logs show two different addresses, pinging from opposite sides of the city within 14 minutes. Elaine didn't drive after dark unless Pat was with her. She wasn't a zigzag person. She was a straight-line person. Add in a keyboard locale flip from American English to British English in a late-night email. Double quotes become single. Spellings lean the wrong way. And you're not looking at stress typos. You're looking at a different device, or a different set of preferences, or a different person altogether. Pressing send under her name. The 7-minute problem is the kind that makes detectives swear under their breath. At 12:07, a porch cam catches a silhouette stepping out of Elaine's front door to take a call. At 12:14, a license plate reader clocks Jalen's car nearly 9 miles away, headed east. Even without traffic, the math doesn't forgive. Either there are two people choreographing comfort, one to wave at the camera, one to drive, or there's a stage timestamp designed to seed the idea that Elaine was moving around town while the money finished leaving her orbit. At 3:06 in the morning, her SIM handshakes a tower without any visible activity on the front end. That's a body-level fact. The phone was powered awake enough to say, "I'm here." But no texts, no calls, no app opens. Phones don't wake themselves out of grief. They wake when someone moves them, even across a table, even inside a car. That handshake lives in a log that doesn't care about narratives. It marks a moment when the device left dormancy, briefly, then went quiet again like it knew to stay small. By sunrise, a voice note lands in Pat's inbox. "I'm fine. Please stop." The voice is close enough to pass a casual listen, but there's an Android notification ping in the background. A bright little chime Elaine's iPhone has never made. That same tone appears in an old story from Kayla Reed, the on and off roommate who does test deposits and activates prepaid phones. You can fake a lot about a person's style. It's harder to fake the instruments in the room where a message was recorded. The devices tell the truth even when the people won't. Across the day, Elaine appears busy without actually saying anything. Gentle acknowledgments, short replies, copied phrasing spread across 3 platforms, as if someone drafted one sentence and pasted it wherever a worry flared up. The cadence is off. Double spaces after periods. No little dashes she loved to use. When two friends compare messages, they're not comforted, they're chilled. It reads like someone creating a cushion of normalcy to buy time. Time for what becomes clear by afternoon. The second transfer clears, the cashier's check settles, and the deeds recording hits the portal like a period at the end of a sentence she didn't write. Jalen didn't hide. He performed. Before dawn, he posted a grind never sleeps mirror selfie from a 24-hour gym, the timestamp stretching neatly over the window when Elaine's account trusted a new device. Visibility doubles as alibi when you know people equate being seen with being innocent. A few hours later, he accidentally wandered into Mike Alvarez's doorbell frame, waved like a neighbor, and kept walking. It played like casual confidence, but the timing read like choreography. Plant yourself on camera right after the money moves. What the main shot missed, the background caught. 15 minutes before the first wire hit, a dark sedan idled across from Elaine's driveway with lights low. The plate is partial, the angle bad, but the silhouette appears again the next day at a different bank. Same dent in the rear bumper. The sedan isn't Jalen's coupe. It belongs to the supporting cast, the person who does the errands that aren't supposed to exist. In cases like this, the second car is where the quiet work happens. Pickups, drop-offs, SIM swaps, and the kind of errands that leave no receipts. Kayla Reed lives in the negative space of Jalen's story. Not a girlfriend, not an employee, just around. Rideshare logs place her near a branch lobby the day after the first wire, making a small test deposit. Her prepaid number comes alive minutes before the Android chime that bleeds into a voice note from Elaine. Her socials are sparse, but the few clips she posted last spring carry that same notification tone. You don't need a mastermind to run a scheme. You need a second pair of hands that knows when to appear and when to be invisible. The messages that followed weren't reassurances. They were scripts. 3 different friends received nearly identical lines from Elaine's accounts across 3 platforms. I'm okay. Please stop worrying. I need space. The punctuation is uniform, the spacing off, the voice flattened. Elaine, the librarian who loved the rhythm of language, didn't duplicate phrases like she was pasting from a note. One message uses 2 spaces after a period, a habit she never had. When Pat compares her text to Hannah's DM, the sameness feels wrong. Comfort by template, not by person. Then there's the audio that no one can unhear. A neighbor's floodlight cam across the street captured a clipped exchange near midnight. A man's voice impatient. Say it, so they stop asking. A woman's voice strained. I'm fine. Stop. The clip ends with a glitch, as if the motion ended too soon, or someone figured out where the mic lives and moved. In the morning, Jalen posts a quote about people loving drama when they don't know the facts, followed by a heart on a comment from a stranger. Praying for y'all. He doesn't correct her. He lets the narrative do the heavy lifting. By afternoon, the second car reappears, trailing 2 lengths behind Jalen's coupe as they pass the intersection by Elaine's bank. There's no law against friends driving in the same direction. There's a pattern in doing it only on days when money clears. The theater doesn't end with a wave to a doorbell. It continues with curated presence. Gym selfies at precisely helpful times. A casual hello to the one house on the block known for cameras, and an online persona that talks about haters while the paperwork comes along. When innocence is performed on schedule, it starts to look like a rehearsal. When Patrice finally dialed it in, the answer was a shrug wrapped in policy. Adults can choose to leave, ma'am. Give it 24 hours. Those 24 hours are where evidence goes to die quietly. Cloud backups overwrite. Doorbell cameras loop. Bank security footage gets taped over on a 2-day cycle unless someone flags it. By the time a report number exists, the timeline isn't cold. It's been put on simmer long enough to soften the sharp edges that could have cut through the performance. Jurisdiction turned into a relay race nobody trained for. City police logged the welfare check. County sheriff said the property transfer made it civil. Financial crimes wanted a DA intake before touching bank logs. The DA wanted a clearer predicate before burning subpoena capital. Each office had a reason that made sense in isolation and made disaster together. Meanwhile, the person who walked her through verification complete slept fine, because delay is an accomplice when the scheme runs on paperwork that looks like consent. What should have happened lives in a checklist that's boring until you need it. Immediate preservation letters to banks, carriers, and cloud providers in the first 6 hours. Not the first 48. Lockdown device trust histories, IP logs, SIM changes. File an emergency restraining order to freeze title actions and pause outbound wires tied to newly added beneficiaries. Pull rideshare and plate reader hits from the day the gift language appeared, not a week later. None of this is heroic. It's clerical urgency. But clerical urgency is what steals time back from people who built their plan on having a head start. The hour that really mattered wasn't even on anyone's calendar. Between 10 and 11 that first night, the new device was trusted. The first, I'm fine template went out, and the alibi selfie posted. In that 1 hour, 3 different systems recorded 3 different truths. Account control shifted. The voice of the account changed, and the person benefiting from the change staged visibility. You don't need a confession when the clocks already agree. You need someone empowered to read the clocks before the timestamps become trivia. Here's the part that stings. A complaint with Jalen's number was filed months earlier in an unrelated financial manipulation case. It lived in a separate database no one cross-checked because the system wasn't built to assume patterns, just incidents. If that flag had surfaced in the first interview, language like gift, temporary transfer, and underwriting would have set off every bell in the room. Instead, by the time Detective Chin pushed for consolidated records, the ATM footage had rolled off, and the notary's raw phone clips had been auto-deleted to save space. None of this absolves intent. All of it explains outcomes. Institutions aren't villains. They're gears. Gears grind slow when process is king and urgency is optional. The people who count on that slowness know exactly how long it takes for a county stamp to appear, a wire to clear, a camera to loop, and a report to become a number. They don't outrun the law. They outweight it. And they count on us to accept policy as fate while the paper hardens into a story that makes questioning look impolite. The cleanest story is the one that explains the most with the fewest miracles. Start with what we can see. A young man arrives selling competence, not romance. The vocabulary in Elaine's life changes first: alignment, reset, underwriting. Then the permissions due. Access creep is framed as care. Share your screen. Approve this code. Let me handle the boring bits. Paper follows persuasion. A quitclaim deed labeled as a gift. Wire split just below scrutiny. A limited power of attorney that becomes a lever once a new device is trusted. None of those steps scream on their own. Together, they hum in harmony. Layer the choreography. While the device is added, he's posting an alibi selfie. While Elaine reacts with a bubble she never uses. A plate reader clocks his car miles away. While friends receive identical "I'm fine" lines, a neighbor's mic catches a man prompting a woman to perform. A second car appears at the edges of every financial errand, driven by a person whose phone makes the same Android chime heard in a voice note sent from Elaine's account. This isn't paranoia, it's pattern. Scripts read like scripts when you stop pretending they're conversation. Money doesn't vanish, it moves. The first wire lands in an account that exists long enough to pass a verification test, then out again into layers. A cashier's check here. A prepaid card reload there. A small crypto ramp that never keeps a balance for more than an hour. Title doesn't vanish either. It shifts quietly into a status that looks voluntary unless someone challenges it with urgency. The whole machine runs on the illusion of consent manufactured at speed. Consent on paper, compliance by script, comfort through curated visibility. Could there be another actor? Yes. Coercion can look like compliance, and someone else could have tightened the screws while he played the face. Could Elaine have planned to step away briefly, then crossed paths with someone worse? It's conceivable, and the law must leave room for more than one truth. But the simplest line that connects the signs doesn't require a stranger to appear in the third act. It requires a plan that treated grief like a door left on a latch, and a timeline that bought itself just enough time to lock it. Here's where we make it personal. Elaine's last voicemail to her daughter still sits unplayed in a cloud she once thought was magic and now feels like a vault. Her Thursday seat at book club is still empty. The floral house folder still open on the kitchen table. A sticky note curling at the corner where she wrote a password and added an exclamation point to feel safer. If this felt like just another episode, keep scrolling. If you felt that empty seat, comment "I see Elaine" so her name isn't buried under the algorithm. And subscribe so this doesn't vanish the way her trail almost did. If you won't subscribe, say why in the comments. Go on record choosing not to help keep her story visible. You want a beginning you can poke holes in, and it still holds. So let's line it up and see what breaks. First, the love bomb wasn't flowers, it was fluency. Jalen spoke the language Elaine needed to hear: relief, certainty. I'll handle it. That's how access crept in under the banner of care. Share your screen. Approve this code. Let me install the manager. Then the forms arrived already flavored. Quitclaim labeled as gift. A limited power of attorney that becomes a crowbar once a new device is trusted. Wire sliced just under scrutiny, like someone has practiced a recipe. None of this needs shouting when the paperwork whispers consent. Second, the timeline resists coincidence. While a trusted device is added, a gym selfie conveniently covers the window. While a porch cam shows a silhouette taking a call. A plate reader pings his coupe almost 9 miles away 7 minutes later. While 3 friends receive the same "I'm fine, please stop" sentence across different apps. A neighbor's mic catches a man coaching a woman to say it so they stop asking. That's not chaos. That's choreography. Visibility planted exactly where skepticism would look first. Third, the money's path reads like muscle memory. A mid-6-figure wire lands, passes verification complete, and fractures. Cashier's check, prepaid reloads, a quick hop through a small exchange that never carries balance longer than an hour. Title shifts in a way that's perfectly legal until someone proves it wasn't. Compliance boxes get ticked, scripts get read. Client confirmed wire purpose, and everyone who could have slowed it down was told. In essence, that love is none of their business. By the time recorded appears next to the deed, the game isn't to stop it, it's to unwind it, and unwinding is the slowest word in the courthouse dictionary. Could an unseen hand be steering this from behind Jalen? Sure. Kayla's timing with prepaid activations, the Android chime and a voice note from an iPhone account, the second car ghosting bank days. None of that demands her name on a form to matter. Could Elaine have meant to take a breath away from the noise and collided with something worse? It's possible. But the cleanest read doesn't require a stranger to appear in the last reel. It requires intent that wore tenderness like a costume and used policy as cover. Here's the truth that should bother you after the credits. Grief made Elaine reachable. Institutions made her stoppable only on a schedule, and performance made suspicion feel rude. That combination is repeatable. It's the same playbook that slides past warnings because it dresses up as help. If you felt yourself wanting to give the benefit of the doubt, you just touched the pressure point the plan counted on. Names can change. Devices can change. The pattern doesn't. And unless someone breaks it early, on the first, share your screen. On the first, let me handle the codes. The paper will harden again into a story that tells itself like a love letter while it empties the house.